Dear students, I, Munira Hassan, welcome you all for this academic session. As you all know that we cannot go out, okay, we need to stay at home nowadays. So we'll be taking your classes through this online video recordings. Now, I am going to take a class of Standard 9, Subject History, and our topic would be Sources of History. Children, while listening to this word or listening to this topic, Sources of History, you will tell me, we have already studied the Sources of History in our previous standard, that is Standard 6, 7th and 8th. Then why are we studying this in 9th standard again? So there's a difference. Now what is the difference? Okay, the difference is that whatever you have studied in your previous standard, that is in your 6th standard, 7th standard, 8th standard, you have studied about ancient and medieval history of India. And now in your 9th standard, you are going to study the modern history of India. So even your modern history sources are based on your oral sources, written sources, material sources, and audio visual sources. Okay, now you will tell me, okay, we have already listened about oral sources, written sources, material sources and everything. Yes, very true. But now you're going to study this in very much detail. And you will be considering the most important things, which are the levels. Okay, that is the sources at the regional, state, national as well as international level. Children, before starting, I would also want to tell you, or I would also like to inform you, or I would like to tell you that what do you understand by history? Okay, to the Greek meaning, what does it mean? It means knowing or learning by inquiry. Some people have also defined it as a study of the past from the point which they have started writing at the point the sources were written. Okay, now it is a study of the past from the point sources were written. Imagine, sources were written. That means how much the sources are important. Now in general, what does the sources mean? Sources means the place of origin, or the place from which something is being obtained. Okay, so even in history, the sources help us to make our study more reliable and more accurate. Okay, we come to know about through our sources that whatever we are studying, okay, relating from our past to our present, and which has been passing from one generation to another generation, is very much reliable, is very much accurate. I would like to give you an example, like the records that has been maintained in the government offices, the books that has been written, okay, the archaeological findings, the paintings and drawings, all these things have become our history, our sources. Okay, and these sources will help us, or will guide us, or will take us journey further for our further study, and to make our history more reliable and more accurate. Okay children, now you must know, and you should keep this point very much in mind, which is very much important, that where are these sources or these historical documents are being preserved. So the place where these historical documents are preserved is called archives. Okay, and the main office of these of the National Archives of India is at New Delhi. Okay, so this is then very important point which you have to keep in mind. It's given in your textbook also. And now we shall begin with the detailed study, okay, of sources and different types of sources. Okay, how does it help us? It helps us to gain knowledge about important events, inventions, cultures, civilization, and many other aspects of society. It serves as an evidence in the construction of history. Okay, historians study these various sources, help them to reconstruct and put together an accurate picture of the past. Okay, now the question must be coming to your mind, how does this historians find about their past? Okay, so they may be investigating, like investigating a crime scenes, like a detectives. Okay, and the clues they may be getting would be in a written, visual or physical form. Now historians, they analyze the sources like an investigator. They put these clues in the laboratory and then finally come to us and let us know that whether it is reliable, whether it is authentic to use the sources or not. So, the sources of history is divided into two parts, and is primary sources and secondary sources. First, we'll talk about primary sources. Primary sources are records or objects that were created by people who participated in historical events. As you can see the example of this particular person, it has been showing and a declaration has been given. Okay, that a person was participated in the historical event and it's a part of primary sources. So we know that this record that was created, it was done in the historical event. Second examples are of the artifacts. What are artifacts? These are the objects made by the humans. As you can see, pottery, weapons and tools. Now these are the things which are being made by the humans, and it tells us whether how it is being produced, what clue does it give, what material is being used, okay, on what era it is being used, okay, for what purpose it would be used. So all this help us to tell us. Now another example, now if you just look at this picture, so you are going to tell me what do you think this object was used for, okay, what it is made up of, who could have used it and why, and what do these answers tell you about the life at the time the object was made. When you answer all this particular question, then you come to a conclusion that yes, this particular object was used for this particular purpose, it was made up of it, and who used it, why it was used it, okay. And all this question, when it has been answered, it gives me an authenticity. Yes, whatever I have been found out, or what are the things are actually will let me know whether I can use this source for my further investigation, for my further carry forward, and can I put it in the textbook to let the children know about it more in detail. Now primary sources may include diaries, letters, interviews, oral histories, photographs, newspaper articles, government documents, poems, novels, plays and music. Now to talk about letters and interviews that is being taken, written by the people, okay, interviews taken by the people, oral histories are the stories that is being passed from one generation to another generation. When we talk about the photographs, yes, certain photographs has been taken, so we come to know whether, these photographs have been reliable or not. Okay, newspaper articles, yes, newspaper articles are the one which are being published. So we know, this particular time the article was being published. Now when I talk about it, I gave you the first example of the primary sources, that this particular person who took part in it and the article was published. Okay, so then government documents are the documents which are being written by the government, and it is being saved in archives, and all those things help us. The poems, the different poems gives us the different messages. It tells us whether that particular time how the people used to celebrate their festival, how they used to come together. Novels, the stories which have been written by the plays which have been played by the people, and the music that was being used. So it tells us how our culture, how our civilization, how our society used to work together, and all this information are either documented or recorded, which has been created in the past. Now these information can be native literature also and foreign literature also. When I say native literature, it is being done by indigenous scholars. When I say foreign literature, I mean the foreign scholars that have been come and visited our country, and they have given a certain authentication and by doing the research. Okay, now let us go to secondary sources. Now what are secondary sources? Secondary sources are items created by people who studied these events in the development rather than participating in them. Okay, so these people were not actually over there, but they studied, they tried to find it out, and then they reliably finding it out, getting a proper source, and they said yes, this particular event or this particular development was done in the past. Okay, so one example can be of this would be this visual sources. Now this photograph which has been taken in the year 1930. So looking at the photograph, the historians try to find out why do you think the photograph was taken, what image was trying to present, why they are looking out of the camera. Okay, now looking at the outfit, what kind of clothes and what kind of a civilization, what kind of a culture these people were following, all those things. Now we'll come to published and unpublished documents. Now it can be primary and can be secondary sources. Now when I talk about documents such as government records, magazines, newspapers, books, all these are published. Okay, records, local government records are published records. Magazines are being published. So newspapers were very much in demand at that particular time to pass on the information from one place to another. Then books. Now other documents like letters, bills, diaries, all these are written by the people who were present at that time, but it was not published. Okay, then speeches, these are not being published. These can be found in courthouses, it can be found in churches, it can be found in family places and other places. And historically, historians are going to ask many questions, whether these articles are published are reliable, but these unpublished articles, but yes, it was written at that particular time. So even we can go through that, we can try to find out more and more information through this unpublished articles. Now oral histories. Now oral histories are another way when people are who whatever have experienced, they have noted down their experience, they have evaluated, they have tried to find out that the stories which has been come, whether it was actually been taken place or not. So we cannot particularly believe it, but when the historians evaluate these stories and they try to give us, and when the researchers find out the interview which was being taken by the people in those particular times are reliable or not, they try to find out whether the video which was being taken or whether the recording which was being taken, actually video will not be available at that particular time, so we'll talk about the recordings that would be taken at that time. Is it authentic? Does it tell me about the actual past and all those things? So of course oral history, when it is being given by an historian, that yes, it has been very much authentic, it is very much reliable. When they go through it, when they evaluate it and they tell us, then we can actually come to know about it. Then there are many types of written sources, that is autobiography. Now the meaning of autobiography means somebody must have written about him or himself or herself, that yes, they have done this at that particular time. Then newspaper articles we have already talked about. Then the laws, the laws which was being made, the rules and regulations were actually how the people should follow, what are the conditions, and the reports. Now once everything was done, it was something was even been reported, that this particular event took place and it was being reported. Then letters, as I told you, then the diaries which have been written, the interviews, and all these are the written sources. And now it has become one of the medium to tell us one of the sources to tell us in the modern history, and we can include all this and we can go through it, and we can always relate our past and our post-independence era, and we'll come to know about it and we can elaborate it. We can we can tell each other that whatever we have studied in the past through these written sources are being reliable, and we can connect it with our present, and then somehow we'll come to know that whatever we are studying is being reliable. Okay, so by moving further, I just wanted to tell you that some people also questions that is the written sources, is it reliable? Can we believe it? Can we believe it to the historians? Okay, so yes, they have given one example. When Vasco da Gama took around or sailed around the Cape of Good Hope, he said that while sailing westward around the cape, the sun would indeed have been on the sailor's right hand side. This means that the sailor actually witnessed it. Otherwise, it is impossible to say that such kind of detail appeared to be true or appears to be correct. Okay, until and unless the person has already witnessed it. So yes, when the historians try to evaluate things, when the historians try to find out and bring it to a notice, so such kind of written sources can be taken into the consideration while learning about the sources of history or about the past events of history. Next will come to the newspaper thing. Okay, newspapers are considered to be the fourth pillar of democracy in the modern period. Now, in the beginning, the print media was not being given such a alternative, or was not being given so much of importance. But later on, what happened is, due to liberalization. What do you mean by liberalization? Liberalization means the government had removed the restriction, okay, has lifted the restrictions on the private sector. So, by removing such kind of restrictions and the widespread use of internet in India led to the increase of print media, and the print media became very powerful, and the newspapers, the information we are getting through newspapers, whether it is national, whether it is international, became very much famous in our country. And now, children, till here, whatever we have done till the newspaper part, starting from the beginning, from the source of resources till this, kindly go through your textbook, and we'll continue the next part of the lesson in the next video. Thank you so much.